Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our community forum. We have with us this evening two finalists for the principal position at BMR High School. I'd like to remind everyone that you could type in live questions into the chat, and we will ask the candidates those questions. Please know that I do have a list of pre-submitted questions that will be asked first, however. So with no further ado, I will begin this evening by introducing our first candidate, Mr. Christopher Ashley.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here tonight and get to meet the Blackstone Millville community. So my name is Chris Ashley. I'm excited to be a finalist for the principal position at the high school. A little bit about myself. I began my career in education as a science teacher in Needham and had a wonderful experience, really enjoyed it, loved my classroom experience, had great colleagues to work with. And it was because of those colleagues actually that I started doing some collaborative projects, both within science and in mathematics. And that got me interested in working more with adults at the building level. So I received my degree in administration and moved down to Rhode Island to become an assistant principal at Portsmouth High School in Portsmouth, Rhode Island, and had a great experience. Really enjoyed working with all the teachers and the staff and the students in the building. And we did a lot of work around restorative practices and supporting teachers around clarifying expectations, working with students so that teachers could feel more effective and engaged with their work, and students could have deeper learning experiences. And from there, I moved into my current role as principal of Tiverton High School in Tiverton, Rhode Island. And have been there for a number of years and thoroughly enjoyed my experience. It's been wonderful. We've done a bunch of different projects, and now most recently been working a lot in our professional learning communities around looking at student data, reviewing common assessments to make sure all of our students are learning at high levels. And now in a place where we've got a good, strong plan in Tiverton and kind of ready to looking to pass the baton off, and excited to learn more about Blackstone Millville Regional High School.
Thank you for that, Chris. I'll start with questions and you just let me know when you're ready for the next ones.
Okay.
So many of our students are choosing to leave because of sports. Have you ever dealt with this situation? And what might you do to help strengthen our athletics program?
So just so I understand the question, we have students leaving Blackstone Millville to go to like other schools for their specific sports programs. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So, so that's, first off, we want to take a lot of pride in our community schools, right? So for all of our students, they may or may not grow up, but they're a member of the Blackstone Millville community. And that means we want to service 100% of our students. And if we have some students leaving, in this case, because of sports, we absolutely want to see what we can do. Now, we'd always love to say we have more resources and we can just create new programs, but we know that's not always necessarily reality. However, I have experience with creating new sports programs and other academic pathways with very limited resources, actually. And we found that it just took a little bit of willpower and some organization and planning. So at Tiverton, my current role, we had a similar problem actually coming in. We had actually a few dozen students that were leaving us who were at our 8th grade, the middle school, and instead of coming to us, were going to primarily private schools. And it was for a variety of reasons, but sports was one of them. And so I decided to focus on this. And as I talked about, we wanted, those are Tiverton students. We want them to come to Tiverton High School, in this case, Blackstone Millville High School. So it started by just engaging conversation with the parents and the students and just asking them, so what was going on? Now in hindsight, we knew what the problem was, but at the time we had some ideas about what the issue was. But we found that actually the parents and the students, they were pretty open to talking about, we think that for Tiverton, there were two main issues. academics, in particular APs was one of them. The parents were looking for more options there. And sports was another piece. So we decided to target this. It took some time, but we started amongst the faculty talking around, in this case, the APs, about our teachers, getting them some training and opening up new AP courses for our students. And so I'm happy to say we've increased our AP courses by over 50%. And then on the sports side too, I engaged in conversation with my athletic director, and we talked about what we could do. Again, knowing we had limited resources, we knew we would love to, create all new sports teams, but we felt like we could still do something. And so for one area that comes to example is coming in, we didn't have a track and field team, actually, Tiverton High School. We had a beautiful track that had been renovated about a decade ago. We even had some track equipment that was donated to us by parents, but we didn't have a track team. And so actually what it took was we put the word out to the students and we said, we're hearing some feedback that we need to create some sports. We have some equipment. We're looking for some ideas of some students that might be interested. And right away, one student who has just graduated last year stood out and said, I've always wanted to be on the tracks team. I'm not saying I'm the fastest runner, but we just need a coach. And so working collaboratively with my athletic director, we kind of put the word out. He had a network of people. We were able to actually get a track and field coach for very minimal stipend. We already had the equipment, and we found that we were able to create a track and field team. And so now we're part of the state league. We run the meets just like every other school, and it's a thriving sport for us. So again, it starts by doing some listening. Sometimes it's a hard conversations, kind of hearing some critical feedback, but then using that to move forward and have the kind of perseverance to say, all right, we can't do everything, but if we know there's a critical need with some organizational supporting, we can put those things in place.
Thank you. The high school has been working closely with Project Lead the Way and our neighboring local school districts to expand our career readiness programs and opportunities. What is your experience in establishing and implementing career pathways for students?
Yes, thank you. So I have some direct experience with this too. So we actually, we're in year 3 now. We created, using Project Lead the Way actually, we created 2 new, we call them Rhode Island Career and Technical Education Pathways. And they came off of, I can't stress enough the importance of the parent and the student voice. We were hearing that the students we had one elective course in carpentry, but we were hearing that the students wanted more. And we were listening to our 8th grade parents. They said, these other schools, we heard these other schools have these engineering programs. Why doesn't Tiverton have something like that? And we said, that's a great point. We need to get on that. So we started looking into it, and I talked to some teachers, and I had a teacher that was interested and had a little bit of background in some advanced coursework in his college work in engineering. And so we put a plan in place. We got the teacher trained, sent him to Project Lead the Way training over the summer, an intense 2-week process. And we put an application before the state to create a new, in this case, an engineering through Project Lead the Way pathway. And then we dovetailed that with, in Tiverton, we were fortunate we had a unique course called boat building. Not many high schools have this. And for the students that were in it, they loved it. And they actually built wooden boats. Being along the community, for those students, they'd spent a lot of time, I was saying being near the water, sorry. That was something that they'd had a lot of experience with. And so we decided to capitalize that. And they said, we have this one course, the students that are in that absolutely love building those boats. We think there's an opportunity here to expand on that and create another CTE pathway too. So we put an application in for both, actually, our carpentry/construction, focused on our boat building pathway, and then our engineering pathway. And they got approved. And now we have 2 thriving pathways that our students can enroll in. They have approved transcript notification so that when they're applying to colleges. But what we're finding actually for some of the students too who are going through this pathway, we added in an OSHA, so they get certified through occupational safety and health. And they're actually, some of them are getting jobs or job offers even before they graduate. And so for us, it's been a win-win. The students love it. They're engaged. They're excited about it. The community is excited about it. And we're seeing more students now interested in it. And so I think just hearing that it's something interested Blackstone, Millville Regional High School was looking into, I'd be excited. And I think there's always a lot of opportunity, even with potentially limited resources to build some new pathways.
Thank you. You mentioned it's time to pass the baton at Tiverton and are looking at this opportunity at BMR. Why here? What is your ultimate career goal?
Yeah, so yeah, thank you. So we've worked really, really hard at Tiverton, and I talk about passing the baton. We've put a lot of different structures. We've redone our bell schedule. We redid our master schedule to get time for teachers to work together. We implemented PLCs. We've implemented the PLC process, so we have teachers looking at common assessments, reviewing student data, then modifying their instruction based off of those. And my assistant principal is starting to get a little bit of the principal itch. And in doing my research, I've really targeted my interests in Blackstone Millville because I think there's some similarities in terms of the broad kind of district size. But also, doing the research, I think Blackstone Millville is really poised to move to the next level. And I think my experience at Tiverton can really help bring Blackstone Millville to that next level in terms of, the previous question asking about kind of new pathways and, engaging with the teachers and the staff about what other, in addition to new pathways, what are some other new courses or new projects that we could potentially engage with to get the students and the faculty really excited about teaching and learning and get all of the Blackstone Millville regional students, at the high school. We don't want to be losing even one of our students to an area school.
How do you engage students who are less interested in academics?
Yeah, so this is always a challenge. And, I think first it's by acknowledging and listening to those students. Sometimes, students have multitude of reasons why they might not be engaged with academics and in school. It could be a family situation. It could be some prior negative experience with school. Whatever it is, we first just have to acknowledge that and talk to the student. And we have found that for us kind of opens the door a little bit just by saying, hey, we're seeing the disengagement. You're not doing your assignments or you're failing one or more classes. You're incredibly bright. You're incredibly capable. And we're not seeing that reflected here at school. So, what's going on? Help us understand. And we found that just by doing that, students are at least willing to start a conversation. And for us, we take that as a win. Okay, we need to kind of understand the problem before we can begin to address it. And so then as we begin to learn more about the student, we try to find as much common ground as we can. So we found, for example, we talked about our carpentry CTE program, that there's a couple students from last year's cohort that came to mind where they weren't particularly excited about the academic aspect of school. They wanted to graduate, but they weren't really motivated enough by the academic work to work hard and necessarily achieve really well in their academic classes. But they had a strong work ethic and they knew they wanted to get a job right out of high school. So we said, all right, let's see if we can combine those two. We hear you don't necessarily want to go to a four-year university right away. Okay, that's fine. But we want to help you make sure you get that diploma so you can get that job right out and get a high-paying job with that. And so that then enabled us to just talk more with the students. And what we were able to do was we developed specific plans for those students so that they could attend their most critical classes, and it actually worked out a work-based learning program where we're able to give them some credit. They were finding employment as seniors in high school. We're able to give them some credit in their current job, use that as kind of leverage and motivation to say, hey, we hear you don't want to be necessarily a novelist when you grow up, but we need you to work hard in English and math in these core subjects, and we can work out a way for you to still work hard and get that job right out of school. And so we're fortunate that we're working together, we're able to get those students to graduate, and now they have well-paying jobs right out of high school.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Knowing the size of Blackstone Millville Regional High School, what ideas do you have to promote school spirit and instill school pride?
Yeah. So, even not the largest high school, so can have a tremendous amount of pride. And my experience is that every single student, and every adult that works at a school has a degree of pride by being a member of that school community. So Blackstone Millville, right? Every student, I firmly believe that every student is really proud to be a member of Blackstone Millville High School. Now, they might not come out and say it, or some students do, and they're really excited about it, but other students kind of keep it underneath, and they're just not given always the opportunity to express that. So I think as the building leader, it would be incumbent upon me to give them those opportunities. So of course, we'd want to do the big things, the pep rallies, celebrate all aspects of the school. So yes, that includes sports and clubs, but it also is an opportunity to include other student groups that won't necessarily have an opportunity to shine. So at Tiverton High School, we used some special opportunities. We have a life skills program with more significant disabilities. And we had the annual pep rally, but we said, let's combine that with the students in our life skills to do a faculty student fun basketball game. Really short, but get all that to not only celebrate our athletes and all the school spirit, but to show that every single student is a member of the community. And it was a tremendous success. And then we capitalized on that we have a monthly advisory program, and we'd want to do something at Blackstone Millville Regional High School too, where you can then use that to then continue that pattern all year long and give further opportunities for students. So you could do short fun activities to celebrate Blackstone Millville Pride each month. You could have kind of theme days, and then have students, take photos, and we could get it out on social media, do contests. But the point is that as you give more opportunities for the students and the staff to celebrate and acknowledge that pride, my experience is that they'll be excited to do that, and they'll want to do it because they're a member of that community. They want to express their pride.
How will you track and monitor the success of our alumni, and what will you do to support them?
Yeah, so alumni are an incredibly valuable resource to any school. And I think it would first just start by looking into what kind of current tracking system, if there's any that's in existence. But then what I found is then use either the current staff or recent alumni to kind of lean on to say, hey, we know there's kind of an untapped resource in alumni in all aspects of life that we feel like, whether they live immediately in the community still or they've moved on, we can kind of use that to feed off of to promote Blackstone Millville. So using that kind of local resources, we want to kind of first just kind of assess kind of who's in the immediate area and what's available, and then use systems. So what we implemented at Tiverton, we purchased Naviance, which is a comprehensive 9 through 12 with alumni tracking system to track our students after they graduate through college or career or military, whatever that is, and then even the years beyond that. And then as we plan activities for our current students, we tap those people from that resource to get involved. So in a recent example, we did during COVID, we knew we couldn't bring people in because it wasn't safe, but there wasn't stopping anything of us from doing Zoom meetings with our recent alumni who are in professions to talk to our current students. So we set up a weekly seminar series where we just, all at no cost, we just put the word out. We said, hey, we want to get our kids connected to see what are the different career and life possibilities beyond Tiverton High School. And that we actually had to schedule some people for later in the day, because very quickly we had a lawyer, we had a police officer, we had a medical assistant, all jump in and said, oh my God, I'd love to hop in and talk to the kids. I enjoyed my time at Tiverton. And it was a tremendous success. And the students are listening in the classroom setting we're just so excited to hear from not only somebody working in the profession, but someone who had gone to that school, who knew the kind of and could relate to their experiences as a student, and then know that, okay, this is what that particular person did to get where they are now. And so I'd be excited to talk about similar opportunities, but again, kind of tap the local resources within the Blackstone Millville community to expand the opportunities for students.
What do you see as your role in the towns of Blackstone and Millville? Can you share some evidence from past and previous roles that highlight examples of this?
Yes. So as the building principal of Blackstone Millville, I really view my role as a community leader in bringing the community together and celebrating the success, and also bringing the community together to say that it's a true community effort to educate our children, that no one person can do it all. And that by kind of including them in the voice of the school and then celebrating those success, what we found is that when it comes then to kind of broader school issues, or if you're facing potentially a tricky budget situation as a town or a community, you have a lot to lean on, and the community is invested in the schools because they know what's going on. They know the students. They're excited as a recent alum themselves, or if they're recent move-ins, they've seen on social media. They get the communications out there, and we celebrate the kind of positives to get them involved. So one example that comes to mind with Tiverton was actually around our sports and our CTE programs. So in the sports, I talked about how we expanded our track and field. But when we did that, we also used that as an opportunity to just start to highlight more about just all of our sports programs and all of our athletes. And so we had the kind of typical media coverage, but my athletic director and I teamed up with, we have a district-wide social media liaison. And so working with her and myself, we just started to make it a priority to highlight and share out all the different pieces that our students were doing, having success with in games and in matches and wins and championships. Of course, we were doing it at the big wins with the big rivalries, but we were doing it throughout the season so that the community, again, could really feel like they knew what was going on. They were excited. We were inviting them to come to campus, be involved, just watch. Even if you don't have a child in the system, we want you on a campus to see the incredible work that our students are doing. And so I think at Blackstone Millville, that's the idea is, all right, we have two kind of by term technically, right, a Blackstone and Millville communities, but they're really one community, right? We all have a shared commitment to educate our students and to celebrate in that success. And so giving them those opportunities to celebrate the wins, be engaged in monthly school improvement team meetings or PTO meetings, getting on my part, doing the reach out to get those parents involved in those meetings, again, to keep them engaged with school, to keep them updated, and to get their feedback.
Under your leadership, what do you envision for BMR in 5 years?
Yes. So in 5 years' time, BMR is really going to be a beacon of success. So based on the question I received, it sounds like we've been losing some students. So in 5 years' time, we're not going to be losing any students to any other community because our kids are going to be so excited about coming to Blackstone Millville Regional High School. We'll have created new CTE programs, expanded our courses, and worked to raise the rigor across all departments and all courses. And we do that by that shared commitment I talked about and by working collaboratively as a faculty. I've found from my own experience, especially on the raising of the rigor, when teams and departments start really digging into the PLC process, they learn to understand that when they have a shared understanding of, okay, these are the most critical, essential standards, and these are the common assessments we're going to use to assess them, they really begin to engage in the types of learning conversations we want them to, all on their own. And it's just a really positive feedback process. And so, by 5 years time, I'm be confident that we could celebrate all these successes and actually be kind of a leading school community across Massachusetts and the region about how we've worked together, even with limited resources, not the biggest district with necessarily all the money, but even with limited resources, you can use what you have to create new programs, create new courses, and get students and faculty really excited about teaching and learning.
Can you give some examples of school processes you have managed that led to measurable positive results?
Yes. So one area that comes to mind for us that we worked a lot on and we're still working on is our graduation and our graduation rate. So coming in, we had some serious work to do around our graduation rate. We were not doing well by kind of any standard. And when I started asking our counselors and our teachers about, well, how do we know how our students are doing, even right off the bat, halfway through freshman year, can we anticipate the need of a freshman or target a freshman student now so that we're not fumbling along in their senior year with missing credits and them having to extend their learning time because they missed courses back their sophomore year. And what we found was that the processes just weren't there. Our teachers cared, our counselors cared, they cared about all the kids, but it was a lot of individual people working with individual students. And there wasn't the collective effort around supporting all of our students to make sure all of our students are being successful and graduating on time. And so we implemented first just a really simple tracking system. So starting right away, freshman year, we implemented it for all students, but we needed to know halfway through the year, okay, are there any students or even earlier, are there any students who were beginning to show signs of not succeeding, of struggling in classes, especially if they're failing one or more classes? Okay, what systems have we done? What communications have we done? And what do we need to do to get them on track? And so that started a process now where we implement now bi-weekly meetings, and this basically runs itself, where all of our social emotional learning staff review all students 9 through 12 with an emphasis on our seniors and juniors, where they're doing this starting from the last week of September all the way through into June to track all of our students. And so that started because we put the process in place where we say, all right, who of these students who are failing one or more classes, if any, and if it's a new student coming in, we look at their transcript right away and say, are they missing any courses and do they need any credit recovery? And then what we did when we started to identify the need of, meaning we had some students who were late juniors who we knew were going to be going into their senior year missing critical credits in English or math, we had to put new processes and options in place in school during the school day to get those students back on track. So one of the pieces we're really proud of is that we built a new credit recovery program in-house at Tiverton High School so that we could target any student right away that was not successful or was struggling to make sure that they got those credits they needed to get on track. And we found that that's really successful, especially doing it in-house and during the school day, because we knew that if we said, all right, we'll just go to this program or go to that school, we weren't seeing the level of engagement and we struggled with attendance. So because of that, our graduation rate has steadily increased. And again, we're still not where we need to be, but those new processes and those new programs, again, about the credit recovery programs during the school day and in the summer have really been keys to our success.
How have you kept your current students engaged with their school and with learning during the COVID pandemic?
Yeah, the COVID pandemic has been incredibly challenging for everyone, and especially our students. And what we've focused on a lot is a faculty is first just by kind of acknowledging that it's difficult for our teachers, first off, to be in a hybrid model. We've, at Tiverton, we've been in a hybrid model since the beginning of the year, meaning we've had some students in front of us and students at home. And that's tiresome work. Teaching is always hard, but this is a new dynamic. And then for the students at home, our teachers first just started by acknowledging that it can be tiring when you're a student at home staring at a video screen for 5 or 6 hours a day. And so for us, our teachers then, we looked at some research, and in our PLCs started talking about how can we potentially adjust our lessons and our activities so that it's just a little bit more engaging, especially for the students at home. So we've been trying to tap into the technology. The breakout rooms have been a key success, using the chat features, but then also as much as we can, what we found in terms of engagement, success for engagement of the students at home is getting the kids at home opportunities to talk to the kids in school and or at home. And having those peer conversations have been really critical about just keeping the students kind of motivated in general and excited still about learning. So they've set students up in breakout rooms, or they'll do a quick 10 to 15 minute direct teacher presentation and then chunk the students off between those in the classroom and those at home, again, to make sure that there's lots of opportunities for students to talk to each other and stay engaged with school.
Being a high school principal is a difficult job. How do you balance this work and your home/personal life?
Yes, it is. It's great work. I love it. I think, I'm just thinking about, if you ask my wife, she might have a slightly different response here, but it's a balance. And I think, like everything in life, you have to work at it. So one of the pieces that I talked a little bit about with my faculty is we tried to set some basic expectations around just communication overall. My faculty know I'm always open, available, but I had some honest conversations with faculty of, if you send me an email at 9 o'clock at night, I might not get to that right away. Doesn't mean I'm not going to get it, but that I might need a little bit of time to get to that the next day. And it's been reciprocated. So as I talk to teachers, I say, hey, if I send you an email or kind of a check-in, I don't expect you to answer me right away. It's okay. So yes, I do expect an answer, but it's all right if it takes a little bit of time. And so it's something I'm still working at. And I think it requires some reflection at times, and kind of ongoing communication to make sure, because it is important to maintain that work-life balance, not only for myself, but for all of our teachers and staff also.
Along those same lines, how do you de-stress after one of these difficult work days?
I don't do it very quickly, but I like to go on the occasional jog when I can. I find that for me, it works for me. And in the very, very, very spare moments that I have, I do enjoy just reading. It kind of resets my brain thinking a little bit, and actually I kind of always feel kind of mentally refreshed after doing that. And so talk about the work-life balance. Sometimes I find myself having to make sure I kind of carve out some time for either one of those, because otherwise it won't happen, right? You just kind of keep going until it's quite late in the night and you realize that you haven't really stopped. And you have to be careful of burnout too. You don't want that.
Can you speak to your experience with raising the bar for special education students and other special populations?
Yes. So a special education team and I have spent quite a bit of time talking about this. And we started by simply having the conversation. So I stress this, my special educators, they care so much about their kids. They, they almost want to grab their hand and write it out for them sometimes. And I think sometimes you got caught up in kind of stepping back to saying, are we really making sure we're drawing that balance between supporting our kids and holding our kids to those high expectations that they can do this and coaching them to that higher level. And so for us, we spent quite a bit of time around the courses that our students, our special education students were taking. And so historically coming in, when I started asking, when we get to the winter season this time of year, and we talk about scheduling for next year, I would ask questions, about what are the courses these students are taking, and are we pushing our special educations into honors and AP courses? And my special educators were like, whoa, well, they have an IP. I said, yeah, of course. I mean, I'm not saying they're taking 5 APs, but just because you have an IP doesn't mean you can't take a rigorous course. It might mean they need some supports and some accommodations, but we can do that. And that just kind of set the tone to begin to think differently around the strengths. So instead of focusing kind of always about, well, this student needs this, we start to recognize that every student has strengths too. And can we capitalize on those strengths while still supporting their goals to see if we can gently push and nudge kids into upper level courses? And so I followed that up by challenging students to say, I'm going to challenge all of you at some point in your high school career to take at least one upper level or challenging course. And I said, especially think about a course or subject that you're passionate about, that you like, but you're a little hesitant. Maybe you've never really challenged yourself. And so you're nervous if you're not going to be successful. I said, that's the time that I want you to take that rigorous course, because we're going to be here to support you. Because as part of our community, it's our job to make sure that if you run into a rough patch, we're always going to be here to support you and that you can do it. And so we did that, all those conversations, and we tailored that with we moved our special education classrooms were, lack of a better term, they were separated out physically. They were in the far end of the building where they had just limited exposure in the building. And so during the summertime, we made some moves and we moved those classrooms into the center of the building, a classroom that has lots of traffic near. And we found that we think had an indirect impact too, because now it was really clear that every student is a valuable member of the community. And so we've been seeing that success. And so now we're in kind of this new phase of when our students with IEPs are taking challenging goals, can kind of continue to support them, encourage them that they can take this. It's okay if you struggle, run into a little bit of a bumpy road. That's okay. That's part of the process, but you're going to be all the much better for it in the long run.
As a parent of an 8th grader deciding between BMR and BVT, what could help him choose BMR?
Yeah, so I'd want to talk to that parent about all the strengths about BMR. And first, that's going to just start by highlighting the amazing teachers that BMR has, the coursework that we can have to offer, and then talking equally kind of important around the social aspect of the high school experience. So, of course, we're first and foremost about academics and making sure all students are ready and going to learn at high levels and have a clear plan for beyond BMR. But that part of the high school experience is having fun, being with your peers, being involved in those clubs and activities. I mentioned the pep rally and other activities, just social activities, fundraisers and events, and that it's all of those experiences with the coursework combined that are going to really make your experience for your child at BMR really special for your child. And that I say to the parent too, and if there is something that, BMR doesn't have, if there's kind of one little piece that you're kind of wavering about going to somewhere else, then tell us. We want to build it, and we'll start talking to other parents. And again, I talked about my prior experiences that you don't always need lots of money to build new programs, to add new courses, and to make a high school experience even that much more rewarding for everybody.
Thank you. I probably should have clarified that BVT is the Blackstone Valley Technical High School, but you answered the question regardless.
Okay.
Um, so we're coming to the end of our time here. You have a couple of minutes left. If you'd like, you could just take this opportunity to explain why you should be selected as the next principal for BMRI.
Yeah, thank you. So again, I want to, thank the audience, for everybody listening, for giving me the opportunity. It's been a delight to talk about my experience, but also just learn about the BMR community. I've now had an opportunity to meet with the leadership team, to meet with the faculty, to meet with students, and kind of every step of the way now tonight. I'm just getting increasingly excited. And I think kind of the culmination of my experience, first as a high school teacher, so I can relate directly to that, in the classroom, teaching experience first and foremost, and then as a building leader, as an assistant principal and a principal, that there's a lot we've kind of worked through, and that every building always has challenges. But I truly believe that when the community comes together and they can see the strengths and work together, anything is possible. And that, I talked about that 5-year vision out, that BMR really can be a beacon of success. And that technical school will be calling us in 5 years and asking about what we're doing to get all of our kids excited about coming to BMR. So it's been a delight speaking tonight.
Well, I speak on behalf of the school district and our community, and I thank you for joining us this evening, Chris. And I personally look forward to speaking with you further.
Okay.
Have a good rest of the evening.
Great.
For those of you that are watching us, please hold on momentarily. I will return with our next candidate for the community forum.
Great.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Great.
Take care.
Thank you again.
Thank you again for joining us, and I appreciate your patience as we were getting our next candidate lined up. I am pleased to introduce our next guest, Miss Jill Phallus.
Take it away.
Take it
Hi,
away,
everyone.
Jill.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jill Phallus. I am, let's see, a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Western New York. I've been in Massachusetts since 1991, so it's a long time. So I really consider myself from this state rather than New York. I am a graduate of the University of Massachusetts, which brought me here. I broke my mom's heart when I moved to Mass and then never went back. I was a history teacher for 20 years. And so I think like a teacher. I still have that classroom teacher in me. I'm very proud of the fact that I brought the AP program, AP US History, to this current school, Munson High School, where I'm at now, as a teacher. I loved the challenge of the curriculum and something that I was really passionate about. And I loved the opportunity to have students push me to be a better educator every day. And they like doing that too. As an administrator, my administrative career came through this kind of a slow, very supportive, I would say, progression. Our current principal here asked me 7 years ago when he was brand new to be a teacher leader. And I said, no, thanks, I'm good. And then he came back a week later and says, no, I really want you to do this. So I blame him completely for my road to administration, but I'm really thrilled about that. It was this very, like I said, natural progression. I became the dean of students, and the superintendent was very supportive and said, if administration is not for you, you can go back to the classroom. So it was very, very safe. But the bug bit me, and I realized that while it's wonderful to be supportive and influence students in your classroom. As an administrator, you get to impact everyone in the community, and that is something that I have definitely cherished and learned to love, and have done so in such a nurturing environment that now I'm ready and excited and eager to lead myself. Personally, and most importantly about me, is that I am a wife of 20 years, and that looks good because we survived COVID together. And so that if anybody can do that, I think all married people out there should get 5 years bonus on your anniversary if you survive COVID together. I am the proud mother of 3 fabulous children. I have a senior. My daughter is a senior. So for all of you parents out there who are going through the college process, I've been there and done that and have the scars to prove it. She's also a recruited athlete, so she'll be playing volleyball and hopefully studying biology at Shippensburg University in Pennsylvania in the fall. I have a freshman. My son, Evan, is what I would consider my work in progress. And he would say and roll his eyes right now that I just said that on television, even though, you're television, local access. But, he is the classic ADHD kid who is I'm trying to get to pass math. So if you're a parent out there and you understand that and feel my pain, then that's that. And then I also have a 5th grader who will be going to middle school, whose one request is that he doesn't ride the bus, but that's first world problems for a almost 12-year-old. He is has a learning disability and has an IEP. So I have personal experience with the special ed department on that aspect, on that side also as a parent. So I say that my 3 kids are so diverse. They've trained me very well to be a building principal, and they keep me on my toes. And they also have learned to accept the fact that when I say my kids, that I also mean the 400 of the kids that I go and see daily. So that's me.
Thank you. We'll start then. Many of our students are choosing to leave because of sports. Have you ever dealt with this situation, and what might you do to strengthen our athletics program?
Oh, I love that. So I am a huge sports fan. If you look over my shoulder, you'll see my University of Kentucky banner, and behind me are my Buffalo Bills. So don't hurt me for that one. I think athletics is an important part of a community. The community that I come from really identifies with the athletics, and it is something that they're very proud of. And I think that you need to create that winning attitude. And I'm not talking necessarily about winning as in wins and losses, but I'm talking about that culture and the community where the competition and what you're doing and who you're representing is a powerful force. And you might have kids who have a sport that we don't have, but there's the ability to see and to highlight who we are and prepare and that reputation so that you have that connection with the community. I mean, you've got that 7th and 8th grade are already there, so they're already in the system as far as athletics is concerned. They should be super comfortable with being in the building and want to be that Charger and want to carry on that already winning tradition that athletics brings and highlights that. That's part of your student experience. In high school, I was a 3-sport athlete, and it was a really big part of it. I'm still, Facebook friends with people from high school, and we'd laugh about some of the sports that we did. I was a coach, so I understand the connection that coaches can have. And so if our coaching staff and our athletic director can have that passion and pride translate into the community, then I think more of the students will want to stay for athletics and look beyond that wins and losses and playoffs, because there's so much more to learn from athletics than just that.
Thank you.
And also, you'll definitely have a fan, because I go to athletic events. One of the students that I met with, Natalie, asked me that, and I said that I'll be one of the loudest ones on the field, on the sidelines, cheering for everybody. So.
The high school has been working closely with Project Lead the Way and our neighboring local school districts to expand our career readiness programs and opportunities. What is your experience in establishing and implementing career pathways for students?
So I'm familiar with Project Lead the Way. We have Project Lead the Way at our 7th and 8th grade. The school that I'm currently at is 7 through 12 building. And we're actually been looking at Project Lead the Way to coincide nicely with this idea of the vision of the graduate, which is, for those of you who are not familiar with that, that is on the NEASC accreditation, the New England accreditation umbrella that we all go through the process of going through. They're looking at the vision of the graduate and looking at other skills that are necessary for our students to be successful now in this 21st century. So as far as Project Lead the Way, I think it's amazing. You get the training, you get, especially with the grant opportunities that they offer. I know that you have the biomedical pathways, and I think that's really important. In letting students know who might be sitting in 8th grade and wondering, where should I go? Should I go to a VOTEC school? Should I go to a different school? Knowing that BMR has all of the things that they would need, all of the course offerings, and will give them that leg up that they'll need in the future. So those pathways are really very important. Another piece is that the different career readiness pathways also speaks to the population of student that might not be college bound. I think sometimes we get so focused, especially over the last, I would say 10 years, about our college numbers, that, we forget that there are students in our population that will go in the workforce, will go into the military. And so those career pathways are very vital to speak to their needs as well. So, those soft skills, you got to have them, because I don't know how many jobs out there where, they're looking for somebody who got an A in U.S. history. You're looking for, can you collaborate? Can you, are you a critical thinker? And are you showing passion and interest, and can you communicate? Those are the things that those different pathways offer.
Why are you looking at BMR so far away from your hometown? And how will you balance this work with your home/personal life?
Well, we had a family meeting over the weekend, which we really did. So I'll say, before I even applied to BMR, I drove it because I wanted to see what that distance would do. I will say that my commute right now is very short, and oftentimes I'm not mentally prepared to be in that parent role, and some of the separation would actually be welcomed for me. I think routines are important. I think balance is important. I even here, focusing on what is family and what is work. That may be needing to have very clear boundaries, that I don't, unless the school's burning down, I don't answer emails on a Saturday, but on Sunday, give me a call. Or I don't answer emails after, 8:00 at night, because I was spending time with the kids. I will say that my family has been very supportive through this process. They understand what that will mean for mom, and they've been they've been really supportive of it. And so that's been really nice. I'm good at compartmentalizing too. I juggle. I'm a mom of 3, so I'm good with juggling. And I'm not afraid of putting in that effort and that energy.
How do you engage students who are less interested in academics?
It's called Evan James Phallus now. I wish I had the cure for this. How do we get kids to do homework? Because if I did, I wouldn't need to be here. I'd be on that speaking tour all over, making all that money. I think that engagement is such a personal thing. I think engagement starts with the teacher. I think it starts with having that connection. I think of my high school chemistry teacher, Mr. Carey, God bless him. I could not perform in chemistry, but I absolutely loved him. And, he knew I wasn't going to do really well in the class because I just wasn't, but I just loved being there. So he motivated me to be in this challenging class as a senior taking AP chemistry. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm a humanities woman. So I think those are the important things about engagement. It's also talking and listening, saying to a kid, what's going on? I'm seeing this downward trend. I'm not sure what's going on. There might be other things happening at home or at work, or maybe they don't see the value, and that's something that we need to talk about. I think student engagement is important with PD opportunities. I think student engagement comes down to leadership in the building and letting students know, that I'm there for them and this is their responsibility and their job. And we want them to do it well because there's reasons for it. So let's make that connection. I might not be going to be a history teacher, but being able to be a critical thinker is going to be important to me when I'm an adult and making decisions. Or you want to be a small business owner. Well, then you're going to need to be able to communicate with your clients. And so we need to be able to teach that. So it's finding those connections for students to find value in what they're doing. It is really challenging, and it's really hard to have that senior who's in your class saying, I don't need this to graduate, and so here I am. But it's trying to find the ability to make that connection. I love being in classes where I want to stay. I want to be in those classrooms, and those kids want to be in those classes. So finding that spark is really something that's important as far as student engagement is concerned.
What do you see as your role in the towns of Blackstone and Millville? Can you share some evidence from past and previous roles that highlight examples of this?
Sure. So I think the town is really, it's the heart of who the high school is. It's a reflection on who your community is. The high school is a microcosm of the community, the greater community. I want to be a part of the community and know what it values. And I think that's really important. I was over the summer, I think it was really important. There was a Black Lives Matter rally, and I was there, to support my students and to be seen and to be as a resource. And that was something that was important to my community. It's, the community that I'm in right now. I am someone who wants to know what families are struggling because I do the Thanksgiving and the Christmas presents and the baskets and the food baskets and helping. I'm into that idea of service and giving. I know I live a little while away, but I want to be at those weekend events where my kids would be. I'll be at the sporting events to support the kids, and I want the community to know who I am and to see me. And when I'm out at a restaurant or something, be able to say hi and know who I am. So I think it is an important part of any administrator, no matter whatever the distance.
Your bio gives examples of being in charge of student activities, clubs, and teams. Have you been exposed to non-student facing administrative tasks in your current role, such as staff management?
Non-school. Say that one more time, Matt. Sorry.
Non-student facing administrative tasks.
Sure. So, I have, I have a caseload of teachers that I evaluate, that I have been involved in, that I really very much enjoy, because it's a two-way conversation. It's not just about what I'm seeing, but it's also about how I can improve. And I ask that question often. What can I do to be supportive and helpful? So that's one of the pieces. I've acted as a mentor as well, for people who are not on my caseload, as far as teachers are concerned, on my evaluation, even in other buildings, to act as a mentor for some struggling teachers teachers who have been identified as struggling. Even I'm trying to think of other things that I've done. PLCs, instructional leadership teams, school council, you name it. I've done it in my capacity in some way, shape, or form. I will say more of my experience is definitely with the students in class advising and National Honor Society and coaching. But as far as the supporting the staff, I have had ample experience with doing that as well. And I really enjoy those one-to-one conversations.
Knowing the size of Blackstone Millville Regional High School, what ideas do you have to promote school spirit and instill school pride?
I think your size is perfect. I hope I'm coming across how I am, because this is who I am. I am not a quiet, I'm not shy. I am somebody who, I'm blessed to do what I love every single day. I've been stuck in high school for 24 years, so clearly I like it. So I think that when you see adults who love what they do, and we do, teachers are amazing. Like, and I said before, and somebody else, it's not an occupation, it's an occupation. And so you're looking for that fun and interaction. I love to celebrate. I love to praise. I love any opportunity that we can have to come together. COVID has definitely put a damper in that. I was responsible for organizing our student assemblies. And anytime we were together, there was some element of fun and hype. We had the music coming in, the kids coming in, or doing, an interclass activity and playing Hungry Hippos with balloons, or whatever it is, that any opportunity to celebrate is something that I look forward to. Also, I am not opposed to putting on the mascot costume. I've been known to do that at several games. But I also think that pride is not just about those special events. It's about those daily events. And it's about being present in the school community. It's about greeting the students in the morning and saying good morning and calling them by name, and having that connection so that they know that, that principal knows who I am. And wants to know who I am as a person, and knows, about maybe I've got, a sick relative, or knows where I work, or wants to have a conversation about how I did on a test, or whatever the case may be, or just talking about the NCAA tournament that's coming up and lunch. I think that's the pride and the opportunity for school spirit that happens every single day. And that's just by walking in the doors. So it doesn't have to be a special occasion. It's just who we are. And I think that's important for students to know that.
How will you track and monitor the success of our alumni, and what will you do to support them?
Alumni are, I love alumni are fun. They're a great resource that I don't think that we always think about like, okay, you hit June and they're out the door and we're on to the next class and we're welcoming, you don't think about that. I think having opportunities to make connections with the alumni is super important. We have an alumni day. We have two, actually. We have one alumni day in January for the juniors and the freshmen. They talk to them and they're talking about their experience and what they did and how this whole process that's going to affect them happens. And then we also have an alumni day in May when all the students are back to talk about their experience and what our graduating seniors might experience. And it's this question and answer, but it also keeps that connection and to them. So I think that's important. We have our seniors do a letter to myself that we send out 5 years from now. And that's the connection that they'll remind them of where they were and what they were doing. And, it's always nice to get that phone call and saying, oh my God, I just got my letter. Can you believe, or hearing teachers talk about of that, or my advisory, we have small group advisories. There are countless kids that I still see that I've made those connections that are lifelong connections. I have kids from the class of 2013 that that are now adults, who I still see and have those connections with. So I think that is really important for them to know that we're always here to help. And if that path that you thought you were going to take in June of your senior year is not the path that you're going, though these counselors are so, our counseling staff everywhere are so good. It's not like once you go, out and you get that parchment, you're gone forever. We're always a resource for them. We're always home.
You briefly mentioned COVID earlier. How have you kept your current students engaged with their school and with learning during the COVID pandemic?
Yeah, COVID. I think the worst thing about COVID is I miss hugs. I miss being able with our high fives and having that interaction. So a couple of things. We did periodic open lunches with the principal and the assistant principal with whatever we were doing. So if anybody wanted to drop in and have a social hour, we did that. I've actually maintained that through now we're back together. So I on Wednesdays, I have a lunch group with some very needy 7th grade girls, but that's neither here nor there. That's been one of the things we've done. Bingo nights. We've done we've done different cahoots after school. We've done that with staff too, because you need to keep the staff motivated and still focused. I will say that if you looked at my Google Classroom, I'm on every single person's Google Classroom, so it was really important for them to still see my face and to know that I'm there. So those were the types of things that we were looking at. We also focused really a lot on engagement. Of having the teachers taking time out of their curriculum to just be and to talk and to have some of that open space. I will say one of the things we did not solve was cameras, having cameras on, which was still a challenge in the hybrid model. So if you come up with an idea, I'm glad to listen to it. But yeah, it's just about being present and letting them know that we're still here.
Having only been an assistant principal, why do you believe you are ready to lead a high school?
Oh, I'm so ready. Okay, so I will say, I thought that maybe there was a point in time that maybe I would be like Keith and be a career number 2. But, this has been something that has grown in me, this desire to lead, this sense of confidence in leading, and preparedness. I would say I have been very fortunate to have a very nurturing administrative team. And having been on this administrative team now really for 6 years, I've seen a lot thrown my way. And it's a sense of calm, and it's a sense of confidence, and it's a sense of yearning. I'm ready for that next step. I'm ready to have the connections be mine. I'm ready for the ability and the opportunity to step up. I'm ready to learn. I mean, I feel like where I am right now, I've done my learning, and I'm ready to take the next step, and I'm ready to seek new mentors and new relationships. And while that is terrifying, to be perfectly honest with you, it is. I've been here 11 years. It's also so exhilarating. And when I find myself talking over and over about the opportunity to lead Blackstone Millville, it's an excitement that I have. And yeah, I mean, I might not have the years of principal next to my name, but I don't think that means that I am deficient in any way, shape, or form.
Great. Can you give examples of school processes you have managed that led to measurable positive results?
I'm just writing this down. Sure. Data is a wonderful thing. It's as I've said in a previous interview, I think sometimes it's scary to teachers, but data is important. And I will say one of the time opportunities that I am proud of is when we were able to take data from just an idea and examining, and this was with our biology MCAS curriculum, and our MCAS results. We noticed that there really wasn't growth. The numbers weren't bad, but we really weren't moving kids from proficient to advanced, and our numbers were just kind of a lull there. And for a small school, we have one biology teacher, similar experience at at BMR, and so we did a huge data dive, and we looked at what did the data say, and we did a bunch of data protocols, which was important. We examined, we brought in other constituents. So for example, the health teacher, we brought the health teacher in because we recognized that, there's some overlap here, and we could move the standards for anatomy and physiology to the health curriculum, and that would free up more time within the biology curriculum for going in deeper in some of the standards that the students were struggling with. And we made the changes, and we looked at things, and we looked at when we were giving the tests. So we're in block scheduling, and we're saying, why are our students taking the test in June when it's offered in February, and they are taking it in the first semester? And little tweaks like that, and our scores improved. And that was such a really satisfying thing to see, that the decisions that we were making with the kids in mind first and foremost. How do we improve student learning, and what can we do? And this was a collaborative effort. Even though there's only one biology teacher, this still was a collaborative effort within the school, and we saw positive change. So that was something that I think it really was, one of the first times where I was like, it was exciting to see that numbers led to change. So that would be something that I would say that we were able to see positive results.
As a parent of an 8th grader deciding between BMR and BVT, which is Blackstone Valley Technical High School, what could help him choose BMR?
There was a student in the student group, a senior, who I asked the question to, and she had the most amazing response. She said, I didn't choose BMR, BMR chose me. And I just loved that. She said, I wasn't going to come here. I was going to go to the VOTEC school, and but I came here, and this experience has changed me, because I couldn't imagine going anywhere else. And so I want those type of experiences and narratives to be in that community. I want to make sure that the 8th graders know who I am and know what we have to offer. And if that's transition activities that we need to have, maybe that's the faculty basketball game is housed at the high school, so they get an opportunity to be here, and so that it's not some sort of this place over here with all the older kids. I think it's important to highlight and promote what we're doing well. And that's not, that's beyond just athletics and, and academics. It's that culture. It's the Chargers for Change. It's the band. It's the art program. It's all of those things to let people know that, yeah, I'm going to BMR. There shouldn't be a question. There shouldn't be a question, because we have what you need. And ideas like you could have mentors too. You could have, National Honor Society or student council working with, the middle school students to have that, to find out what the interests are in our students, and showing them how they can be successful and want to graduate as a Charger.
Thank you. Can you speak to your experience with raising the bar for special education students and other special populations?
Yes, well, I have that in my life, and I think that is super important. I think a lot of to do with raising the bar is also, relationship building. Our kids want to do well. Our kids, when they're motivated and have something that is important to them, they work for it. They are willing to go the extra mile. And I think it's also important because, you don't want to do anything you're bad at, right? So you need to have that ability to celebrate those benchmarks or where you're hitting, and then say, okay, we're not done. We're not done. You did this, and this is amazing. You know what? You got more. You got more in you. And it's that confidence building. For my little guy, who's 12, he's not little, but anyway, but for my youngest, it's important to celebrate things because he finds school hard. And he doesn't want to do it because he'd rather just go and do something else. But wouldn't we all? But it's also making that ability to persevere. And there's back to that those soft skills. And I really think that comes down with the relationships with the school and the parents, with what they value and knowing what they value and knowing where they want to go. What are your postgraduate aspirations? And let's get you there. And having those talks of, okay, even if okay, you might not have done as well as you wanted to, let's reflect and figure out how we can do this, or what strategy is really working, or having a conversation of why are you getting it in this class and not in this class. So it really just comes down to that, being that student's champion, telling them they can do it because they can, and communicating that and being able to make those connections, because they'll do it. The kids will do it. They'll get it done. They're so resilient.
What is your impression of BMR so far? And what would your number one priority be if you're selected as the next principal?
Okay. I've learned a lot. I listen, and, I'm hearing things like from the different constituents. I'm hearing, you're wanting somebody to be visible. You're looking for I'm looking just at some of my notes, a communicator, a leader, an instructional leader, a cheerleader, and those are things that, that are definitely, I would consider my strengths. And I think, any school and community is a unique community. So I think one of my first priorities is to listen and learn. I'm not going to be somebody who's going to come in, like gangbusters and say, here's my agenda and here, have at it. I think one of the things we have to deal with is the ramifications and fallout of COVID, of getting kids back into what we would deem normal, although I don't think normal is coming back, and having those social emotional connections, and reminding people what it is to be a community, and a community not via Zoom. I think that probably would be one of my top things. I've heard just from all over the place the positive culture that already exists at BMR. So that is super exciting to come into a place where the students describe the community as welcoming and inclusive, and that people can be different and it's okay. That's amazing that you have the people, the educators who are already nurturing that, and that that jives with who I am as well. And I'm hoping that will be a natural marriage, as far as that's concerned. So yeah, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot over this experience.
Under your leadership, what do you envision for BMR in 5 years?
Under my leadership, what do I envision in 5 years? A cohesive, progressive thinking staff who always have the best interests of students at heart, and enjoy what they're doing, and it shows. I would love to see the pathways continue. And I don't know what that will be. It will depend on what students' needs are, but I would love to see the career pathways continue. I believe in the vision of the graduate. So I would see in 5 years, with the reaccreditation coming around and looking at that and highlighting that, the community that knows the mission, believes the mission, and lives the mission.
With our high school building being a 9 through 12 building, how do you form connections with the middle school students and transition them in from the 8th grade to the high school?
Yeah, great question. So I think there's a bunch of layers to that. I think one, you've got to have the communication with the staff also, there's got to be a vertical articulation of the curriculum, so that you're not an island. You know what's happening in the middle school, and the expectations, so that the teachers are able to to talk about that. It could even be as simple as exposing them to school-wide rubrics. And talking about those expectations. I'm a big proponent of familiarity, because you don't know what you don't know. So having those transition activities and opportunities for people to come in, multiple opportunities for people to come in and to see what we do on a daily basis, and to know what is your career path going to look like school-wise. And having those 8th grade transition nights, so that parents can come in and hear and sit and listen to the English department talk about what their scope and sequence looks like, and what are our elective offerings, and what are some things that you just didn't know about BMR. So I think that transition is really important. I think that also takes collaboration at the top, and having strong administrative connections, and that's from the elementary school to the middle school, and the middle school to the high school as well. So if you have that opportunity to link, and you're thinking like that, you're not thinking like a building of a 9 through 12 building. You need to think globally, and you need to consider what that is and what their needs are. And then you also need to talk to teachers about, what are the skills that you're expecting the students to come with? And we can't just say, oh, they didn't teach it at the middle school. There's got to be that conversation. There's got to be that collaboration and that bridge from one to another. So it's not just about the students coming in, but it's also a matter and responsibility of the staff looking at that as well.
So we have just a couple of minutes left, and I'd like to give you the opportunity to share with the community why you should be selected as the next principal of BMR High School.
Oh, so many things. I was thinking about this on the way I'm in my office because I have 3 kids, 2 dogs, and a husband. So I need a place to think. So, So I have listened, and I've heard, at least from the constituents who I've been exposed to. And if you're looking for, and I'm hoping, and I think you are looking for the person who will lead the school and love your children like their own, then I'm it. I absolutely adore my students, and they know that. And that doesn't mean that, we don't have those hard conversations, and that doesn't mean we always agree. But they know that at the end of the day, I got their back, and I'm there for them. And if they ever needed an adult in their life, that's me. And I think that's really so important today to have that. So, and this is the type of community that is tight-knit and proud of who they are and where they are. And if you're looking for somebody who's going to champion that, then I don't think you have to look any further. How's that?
Excellent. I want to thank you. Give me 1 second, actually.
Okay.
My apologies. Joe, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us this evening. And I want to thank the community for joining us here for these presentations. And I want to encourage the community to make sure that they log into the parent and community survey to make sure that we get your feedback. And
yes,
once again, have a lovely evening. Thank you for joining us. And I look forward to speaking to you personally very soon.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Take care, everyone.